All right, so crypto and the idea of blockchain now starts to intersect what I think could be pop culture, but more importantly, maybe into the era of notoriety around devices. What I mean by that, Ledger has a new device coming out called the Stax, and we're going to talk about that today. Why this is important for crypto, why this is important for blockchain, and maybe even adoption. We'll dive into all that. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. Today I want to thank our sponsor, and that is CoinLedger. You guys are now preparing for your taxes for 2022, you're going to need to do a couple of things. The first thing you're going to need to do is find a project like CoinLedger that can allow you to bring in all of your transactions from all the different portfolio platforms that you guys have out there. That includes exchanges, including their partnership with Ledger. And let's say you just need to bring that data in from all your crypto adventures and move it into the potential of where you're going to need to take it, and that is your taxes. So that can either go to your CPA, it can go to your TurboTax. All of that is now built into CoinLedger. So make sure and check them out. They've got a ton of integrations. If you get over their website, you just kind of figure out right here. I mean, it just goes on and on. You're going to see almost every one. I have yet to find one that has not been able to integrate. And if you do have an unusual integration needed, then just email the team there. Most likely they'll be able to work with you to try to help you out on that. CoinLedger, though, is the one-stop shop for your tax preparation this time. Make sure and use our code below. You're going to get 10% off. Just use the code Baron, and you'll get 10% off your CoinLedger program. So check them out. All right, so let's get into it today around what Ledger has released. Now, I got a lot of different clips here that I think you guys will like. And really, I think this is a big move for the industry. And device-wise, the Ledger, I think it's equally as big when the Ledger came onto the market. And the ability to self-custody and really understand what's happening in self-custody. And by the way, we've seen a massive spike in self-custody. This is important because it also creates some strategies around how this industry could affect everything from price, adoption, all those kind of things. I'll talk about this further in the video, so make sure and stick around for that. But I want to get to this one right here. This is, of course, the Ledger CEO introducing Stax. Let's open this up.
Ledger now secure more than 20% of the world's crypto assets and north of 30% of all NFTs. It is a big deal. And people use our solutions because...
All right, so what you see there is the impact that Ledger has had on the crypto industry. At 20% and 30% of world's NFTs, 20% of world's crypto assets, significant in the essence of what's happening in crypto as a whole. And I think most of you would agree in terms of the growth, really kind of the mishaps of our industry has caused these massive growth opportunities for self-custody, and hence, one of the largest companies out there for self-custody being Ledger. So that, along with the evolution of what they're trying to do in releasing this new device, and why this device may change the way you take self-custody, but more importantly, it might change the way that your mother takes self-custody, someone who is not crypto native, someone that maybe hasn't even bought their first token yet. I want to jump to this next piece right here, which I think kind of gives a little bit of a framework of why the adoption could occur. And I like the strategy that Ledger is taking here, but listen to what they had to say.
All software runs on hardware. None of us have ever used software without using hardware. But if the hardware that you hold in your hand doesn't have a secure element and a secure screen, there's no software that's going to make it secure. Right? Your $1,000 smartphone is not secure, but by adding a relatively inexpensive ledger to that phone, you take custody of your own assets with the world's best security. And that is...
Now, when you look at Ledger, and you understand this as a self-custody person, and maybe you have not taken, the idea of self-custody to heart yet, and maybe you haven't done it. Maybe you're still sitting out there on exchange. But the elegance of software and hardware that he's explaining here, I think is really the killer app here. Now, the cool aspect of this is how does this potentially morph into something else? And that, I think, is where Ledger is going. And what I mean by that is when you think about the iPod, you think about the birth of music, the birth of how integration when Steve Jobs, and I'll show you a clip on Steve Jobs here in a minute. There is a very unique similarity here, almost eerie, of how this is being translated into maybe the future of what Ledger is going to do. Listen to this other clip here, because this gets into a couple other design elements. And to me, this starts to bring home the entire concept of what Ledger is up to, but I think it also sets up the roadmap for where they're going. And this is very important, so listen up to what he has to say here.
Music, from Winamp to Yahoo Music to Beats and Apple Music. And right now reminds me a lot of the year 2002, the year the iPod came out. In 2002, I knew the internet was the future, but the phone I had in my pocket was terrible at the internet. I had a phone that didn't have the internet, a computer where I did my internet work, and an iPod for listening to music. And similarly, today, I have a phone and a computer which are terrible at protecting digital assets, and I have my Ledger.
All right, so I'm going to pause it right there, because that's exactly the mechanism that started to create the evolution that we've seen in mobile device computing for the last 20 years. If you think about when the iPod came out, 2001, I believe, the last 20 years of what we've seen in mobile computing has started to evolve all of that. So your camera, your music, your everything became your mobile device. Problem he just mentioned there is the security aspect, the layer that you need hardware to essentially kind of play into this. And at some point, I have a feeling that they're moving the direction of going into a full all-inclusive product. And I'll talk about maybe how an app store comparison might be in line with what Ledger is up to, but also why all of this may really play into adoption. And there's a couple things I wanted to show. This is the thing that I thought was eerie right here. Here's Steve Jobs. This is Steve Jobs back in 2001 when he introduced the first ever iPod. This was the introduction. I want you to look at this, and then you'll get a chance to see what I'm talking about with Stax here in a second.
This is what iPod looks from the side. Again, about 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to show you the back first because I'm in love with it. It's stainless steel. It's really, really durable. It's beautiful. And this is what the front of it looks like. Boom. That's iPod.
Boom. That's iPod. You know, Steve was, rest his soul. I think this guy was the ultimate one creator, understanding how consumers really would eventually fall in love with devices at some point. He completely understood that. And it's very possible that the blueprint could be placed right now in the crypto industry. And, you know, we've often said that the way to adoption is to make things easier. Make things easier for your mom, your uncle, your friend down the street, someone who's never bought a token, never bought an NFT, and to continue that cycle of letting technology do the heavy lifting and the devices become more elegant and more elegant. And before you know it, you have a mobile device and everybody carries an iPhone. I think that's where we're going with self-custody. Now, this, to me, puts us in a framework that the banks should be shaking in their shoes, because to me, this potentially changes the dynamic of how self-custody, possibly even how bank accounts, and maybe in the future, how digital currencies and digital assets will all be held. And I think the key company, there will be more. This is not going to necessarily be the end-all, be-all. There will still be a Samsung coming at this. There will still be an HTC or others that will play into this. But they, of course, kind of took a playbook right out of Apple. Here's the guy that actually designed this device. And I want to play a little bit about what he's talking about.
Today, I carry around a bunch of things in my wallet. Bank cards, credit cards, transit cards, my ID card, right? And in my other pocket is a smartphone, right? It contains a lot of these cards here, now, right? But why am I carrying both? Does that make sense? I don't like carrying around a fat wallet, but I don't trust to have everything on my phone. That's crazy. If we can't trust our smartphones, but we want all the convenience that they deliver, what do? So first, we needed an ultra-secure, proven digital wallet. Well, Ledger's got that. Ledger has millions of secure digital wallets out there used by savvy, crypto and NFT users around the world. Not a single ledger has ever been hacked. That's
All right, so let me pause it there. So you can see the convergence that they're attempting to go down in terms of the track of adoption. And this is, one, the security aspect and the layer that needs to happen in mobile. My question will be, in tech, as we continue to see crypto and digital assets, NFTs, et cetera, really start to accelerate, will we see Apple move into this space? I still believe Apple's probably has got some sort of Trojan horse type style of situation coming out that could play into this. Meta could also play into this, which is also moving into the device architecture, not necessarily in the security layer like Ledger has done. But I think the question will be is this a device that can either, one, at some point, morph into maybe a solution that is a mobile device, much like any other phone that you might carry today, whether you're an Android user or an iPhone user, and the magical nature of security, identity, which is going to be huge, especially in Web3, and the evolution of where that's going. I think Ledger is in a very, very interesting spot right now. They have the opportunity to dictate to not only crypto, but possibly the entire Web3 stack for evolution. And that's in every industry out there. There's not one industry that will not be affected by Web3 and the idea of identity control on a Web3 stack and platform. This is why I think what they're doing has such a unique element. So I want to jump over to their website. You can kind of see exactly what they're talking about. And this is the new Stax product. By the way, this is not an ad. And Ledger, though they are a partner with the network, this is not a paid ad. We're reviewing this. We also look at Trezor and other devices out there, and I'll show you another alternative to this. But this is a device that is starting to move more and more. As you can kind of see, it's that e-ink. All right, so I'm just going to play this for you and let you guys kind of take a look at what they're attempting to do. And I think, again, this gets back into the device nature of where they're trying to pair this. Very, very elegant, has a lot of those nuances that almost the original iPod did. And it really starts to answer that bigger question, and that is, can security be completely separated from what's happening on the phone with a super elegant device that makes it super simple to do self-custody, but even more importantly, super simple for either acquisition or moving of funds, all those kind of things that we use our ledgers for and our self-custody devices for today, but in a way in which the average person will start to adopt at a much faster rate. So I think these are the kind of things that we'll continue to see with it. I want to go back to the designer here because he gets into a couple of points where he actually introduces the device.
So I'd like to show you a video of how it all works together. So let's run the video. So this is my friend Remy, and he is going to give me some Ethereum. He's going to give me some Ethereum. I can't wait. And that's my device over there. He's taking the QR code right off of it with the new Ledger Live, and he's going to give me $2 worth of ETH. Yes! And even better, he's going to send it to me right away because I need that $2. I have to have it. Now he takes his device, goes right there, pairs with it. It's loading. Yes, Remy. Yes, Remy. He's reviewing the transaction, taps to continue, and then he holds to then sign that transaction. It's that simple, that easy on the e-ink display that you see.
Beautiful.
So that's how it all works.
I like this. I think it's, as I said, these are the kind of advancements in technology, much like smartphones, that really starts to create that mass adoption. In the early era of what we saw in the iPhone, the transition from the BlackBerry over to what we saw in touchscreen computing devices, everybody kind of pushed back a little bit. But remember, there was a device before. So right now, what we're dealing with is the same kind of thing. You're dealing with the little devices that we have today with a lot of clicking and, navigating, and it's kind of the old school model. I think this is definitely one that will make it into the future for mass adoption. Other aspects around this of where is Ledger going with this, I want to take a look at the Block article. They talk about their CEO basically looking at an IPO. If Ledger goes full public, there are really two opportunities for them. One, I think critical mass adoption in Bitcoin and alts and NFTs, all of that eventually is going to bring in hundreds of thousands, millions, and at some point, 1 billion users. Self-custody will be part of this. More importantly, what this will start to create is an ecosystem that is much like the App Store, like Apple, in Web3. And I think that will be the killer app that starts to play into a device like this. Now, where they go from here is going to be very interesting. So I'm watching this company very closely. What they do in their next iteration of technology, where this may plug in terms of partnerships, because I do think we're going to see some more partnerships. How this also starts to move into TradFi because of the capability of what blockchain does, tokenization as a whole. TradFi and the technology that Ledger has done on self-custody, dual signature, all the aspects of where they're going with this in terms of security starts to shift the landscape very quickly. It's a technology that may be one of those technologies that is almost undisposable. I mean, you have to have it in the future of where we're going in Web3. So if they go IPO, this would, of course, I think really start to change things at scale in a way that I think will be interesting for the overall market because of the potential for adoption. The other thing that they go into with Ledger is enterprise. Enterprise is another big factor here that is going to start playing into this, which again gets back into the whole Stax thing. You know, when you saw some of the videos and stuff earlier, it's the capability of taking those devices, putting those maybe into a full enterprise kind of scenario of self-custody. But now they're looking at going into a complete new layer of all sorts of applications where enterprise will play into this. And here's the thing that you need to be aware of. When you think of enterprise, I don't want you guys to think just about, you know, the traditional, you know, enterprise candidates, and even to a certain extent, the particular investors, the whales out there that might be using something like this. I want you to think about the companies that have yet to buy their first digital asset, have yet to launch their first NFT or their NFT marketplace. They are going to need these types of technologies and security to be able to level up. And that's where I think this starts to accelerate. We think about retail. That's just the device, the ledger you might have in your pocket or your wherever. Stax, of course, is going to be, I think, the potential solution here that takes us to the next level of adoption. And then enterprise, I think, is in a position where it takes us into critical mass. Critical mass because all these companies have millions, if not hundreds of millions of customers that eventually are going to start to integrate into Web3. Secure devices and or strategies are going to be the next major area. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the only solution out there that might be going in this direction. This is a company that I want to bring a little bit of light to here. Again, not a sponsor, not a partner, but it's a company called Zodia. Now, Zodia is rolling out a service to basically protect client assets from exchange insolvency. We recognize those names, right? Now, I don't know anything about these guys just yet. I will say this, they have reached out to us. We've talked with their team in a very short amount of time. But when we started doing research on this, there's some interesting aspects of whether they are maybe a solution that will go in this direction. But the idea is pretty straightforward. They're basically looking at custody that would basically give you a new service to protect your assets on an exchange from insolvency. So it's almost as if you're trading a synthetic and still being able to retain those assets in a secured facility. This will get interesting as this technology starts to evolve, and whether or not they are a company, that I think there will be many others because this will be much more software driven. But I think there will be a lot more companies that kind of move in this direction. This was their thread on Twitter. This was introducing Zodia's interchange collaboration with Zodia Markets. You can now actively trade on multiple exchanges directly from your custody wallet with minimum risk and full asset segregation. So again, gets back to where you don't have guys like Celsius and Voyager and the likes starting to take away. And I think this will continue to be the case even with banking partners down the road. Whether or not we'll see this in the banking industry of traditional finance, I think is maybe still years away before we'll see those kind of control mechanisms. But the fact that this is starting to take place is very critical. The one that I think it affects maybe in a bigger way is obviously, wallets like MetaMask. Even had Trust Wallet now just got notifications on some of our own Trust Wallets that they've had some data breaches. So they're recommending that you completely shift over to another wallet. These are the kind of things that have occurred. And then you had MetaMask, who was forced to update their data collection policy after this whole big debacle where they were collecting data on the MetaMask accounts. And again, there was a big pushback from the crypto community. And I think these are the kind of things that will continue to move into a space that pushes the technology into the next layer. And that is these kind of software solutions, these kind of hardware solutions that get us into a position where all these shenanigans have got to go away. For us to get to critical mass, us to make it to the next level, all this stuff has to be resolved, completely gone to a trustless aspect to where there's no situation that really is applied other than traditional scenarios that we won't most likely never get away from, and that is the hacks side of things. So I think the fact that this is moving this far, this fast for security, to me is still the number one thing, and we've talked about this many times on the show, is that security really is the future of where this is going. All right, so last up, of course, you can go in and order your Stax. If you guys want to do it, you can go over to the Ledger Market. There's some cool things that they've done here where you actually get some benefits on getting one of these. You can mint the bundle, so you get the NFT for a Ledger Stack and a free magnet shell. And then you can do all this now. And it's actually probably a little bit better in terms of value versus just buying one retail. Because right now with ETH, it's around 270. You can kind of see right there, around 270. 782 out of the 10,000 right there. So that's probably the way I would do it. Most likely I'm going to get one of these, so that's probably going to be the way I go about it. All right, I'd love to get you guys' feedback. When you think about self-custody, first of all, let me know what device you're using. Just drop them in the comments below if you're using a Ledger or using a Trezor or other devices. There's many others out there. Or are you using a software wallet? Love to also know what type of wallet you're using. Mainly so we can understand where the educational side needs to go in terms of self-custody, because we have a lot of new people coming into the show, a lot of new people that will start coming into the market, I think, in a very short period of time. We'll talk about that in more shows this week. We've got a lot happening, so make sure and stay tuned. We've got Gareth on later in the week, tons of stuff. Dana's going to be back on the network. We'll break down some Bitcoin. Of course, if you are catching this after, you also catch our altcoin update today, so make sure and check that one out as well. If you guys are not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in now. Just click the link below. It helps, you stay up to what we're doing, but it also gives you some insights and some member benefits, including discounts on courses, all that kind of stuff, just by joining that team, and it's free. If you guys want to reach me, it's out there on Twitter, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechBath.